Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Ghost Talk with 187 PI. Sit back and prepare yourselves for an adventure into the paranormal world with host Shelly Robertson and 187 PI research team. Ghost Talk is broadcasting live from Ohio's most haunted jail. Learn about their ongoing research at the jail and abroad, investigation techniques, and their personal encounters. Here is your host of Ghost Talk and 187 PI founder, Shelly Robertson.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ghost Talk Radio. With me as your host, Shelly Robertson. I have some pretty interesting topic for tonight. I'm going to talk about a couple of haunted locations in Canada that we recently visited, along with some other super haunted places from around the world tonight. So I urge everyone to log into our interactive chat room and join in on the fun and conversation at WBHM-DB.com. Also, if you have any questions, I will be happy to take them. Okay, so we'll just dig right in. Recently, this was last weekend, 187 PI went to Canada. We went to Ottawa, Ontario, which, of course, you know, that's the capital of Canada. And first, I have to say that Ottawa is such a beautiful and fascinating city. The architecture of the buildings there is, oh my gosh, just spectacular. And some of them, they just reminded me of being in England, in London. There's some really great buildings. I will say there's a lot of people there too, and a lot of walking traffic. So tourism, the local folks were so nice. We visited a restaurant, a museum, of course. The building I'm going to talk about now is the Ottawa Jail Hostel. And of course, you know, I own a jail, so I thought how fascinating. I started searching up on the web to look for other jails that might be awesome to visit. So I found this one in Ottawa, and they turned it into a hostel. And I've never stayed at one, so I'm like, it looks castle-like and fascinating. So we started digging into the history of the building and made the decision to go visit. And I was not disappointed, let me tell you. So, you know, we wanted to get the full experience of this place. So me and Toby, who is my brother and a member of 187 PI, I'm sure you all know, we booked a room and we planned our journey. So a little bit about the place. The Nicholas Street Jail, it was the main jail of Ottawa for over a century, and the castle-like structure was built out of limestone in 1862, and it was right next door to the courthouse, and it connected to the courthouse by a tunnel, right? It was designed by Henry Horsey, and the jail was the site of a hanging of Patrick Whalen on February 11th, 1869 for the assassin of Thomas Darcy McGee, okay? Over 5,000 people witnessed Whaling's hanging, which at that time was a huge number considering the size of Ottawa at that time. Staff and guests reported that Wayland's spirit is one of the many that haunt the hostel, and he's been spotted standing at the end of guests' beds or in his death row cell. The third and final execution at the jail, it took place on March 27th, 1946, when Eugene Lamont, who had killed an Ottawa police detective, was hanged. The building remained in use as a jail until 1972, when the outdated facility was closed. The original gallows, however, are intact and remain fully functional. While open, the jail inflicted very inhumane conditions upon those who were imprisoned there, and a modern-day excavations of the property have revealed numerous unmarked graves, folks. Up to 150 prisoners, consisting of men, women, and children, would be forced to share 60 small cells. These small cells were only 3 feet by 9 feet. Imagine that, okay? That's very, very tiny. And there were 30 larger cells that were only 6 by 9 feet, as well as they had 6 solitary confinement units. And this jail housed inmates that included murderers, the mentally ill, and those incarcerated for minor infractions such as drunk and disorderly conduct, right? So, of course, after the jail closed in 1972, Hosteling International purchased the building and turned it into this hostel. Now, the cells in the jail are the same cells that prisoners were locked up in, and those rooms that you rent to sleep are still exactly the same size, right? So, Toby, of course, he wanted to get that ultimate jail experience. So he chose this tiny 3 by 9 cell, and let me tell you all, when he went into the cell, all that can fit in there is the cot, and it touches the walls on all 3 sides of it. And like when you walk in, you have enough room to stand there and close your door, and then you have to climb into that cell that is just sandwiched in between these walls, right? So it was pretty comical, actually, on how small it was. And there was no creature comforts in there beside, the mattress and sheets and a thin blanket and a light, right? So, but then I got to thinking on the second token, right? When you put all of that into a bigger perspective, that some people were living their lives in this tiny little space, not just spending a couple nights, it really, really becomes a sad reality, right? And I'm afraid if you were locked up there and you didn't have any mental conditions to start with, I truly think it could drive someone mad, because it is so like you're in a box. Now, I stayed, of course, I stayed in one of the larger cells. Oh, excuse me. Caught me a little cold while we were out and about. I stayed in one of the larger cells, which had like an ample room. It had a full-size bed, a little table, a chair, a desk lamp. And my cell was a little more cushy and comfortable and accommodating. And the way that they turned these cells into the rooms to rent, the construction of the doors was just amazing and fabulous. It still stayed within the same theme as cell doors, but of course it had a lock on both sides. It was truly a fascinating experience. The jail hostel was featured in the 3rd episode of the Canadian television show The Girly Ghost Hunters, and that aired on the Space Channel in 2005. It was also featured on the second episode of the Canadian television show Mystery Hunters, and that was in 2002. So now I'm sure you're all wondering what we experienced at the Ottawa Jail Hostel while we were there. Well, the first night we arrived, it was pretty late in the evening, so we were really super tired, and we didn't do a whole lot of exploring that very first night. And we got there on a Friday, and we left Sunday morning. Now, Saturday night, though, was a different story. Later in the evening, after exploring the town, we went back to the hostel, and we decided to go down to the solitary confinement cell, which is in the basement. And as we were in this cell and in there starting to do some session work, and there was no one else around in the area, we kept hearing these phantom footsteps walking up and down the hall next to us. Of course, we didn't see anybody. So then we went to the kitchen area, actually the part where everyone gathers to eat, like the cafeteria space, you might want to call it. And we were sitting at a table, and we were doing some EVP work, and we could hear the phantom footsteps go walking past us up and down the little pathway there. And we heard a bunch of other noises too that we couldn't find an explanation for. So we then started our EVP session, and Toby asked the question if, whoever was there, were they an inmate or a worker? And we actually got a disembodied voice stating they were a worker. So that was pretty fascinating that talking was out loud. And the walking back and forth just kept on. And then later that night, while we were sleeping in the cells, there were noises. It sounded like someone walked up to the cell door and didn't leave, and we didn't see anybody. It just came there and stopped. That happened a few times. So we did actually get some paranormal phenomena evidence in the building, and I would say that, yes, it is haunted. And if you're looking for a fascinating place to go, I would recommend that you go to this jail hostel in Ottawa, Canada. This is the first time I'd actually stayed in a hostel, and if you aren't familiar with what that is, it's basic sleeping quarters with shared bathrooms and showers and a community kitchen. And if you're traveling abroad and you don't need all that cushy, poshy creature comforts of a 5-star hotel, and you'd like to save a boatload of cash, well, then I'd recommend check into hosteling. It's a different way of life, I will tell you that. While we were in Canada, we also visited a place called the Bytown Museum. And that's located along the canal down by the locks in downtown Ontario. This museum was so interesting. It's the oldest stone building there. It opened in 1917, okay? And this museum was used as a storehouse and treasury by the British military in the earliest 19th century. Today, the museum is most popular for its stories of hauntings, of course, and it's been featured on paranormal TV shows. Now, the collection at the museum, it consists of over 7,000 objects that portray the evolution of Bytown to the present-day Ottawa. The exhibits shows, some of the culture and the art of the city, and it includes paintings, sculptures, and other artifacts. The building itself is an iconic architectural site. There was stuff in there like from the Queen of England. There was, I can't tell you, all the fascinating, some old soldier uniforms from back then. I mean, there was a lot of really interesting items. What did we experience while we were there? Well, we were on the top floor and we were in the center of this big room, and there is a section that is filled with lots of personal effects. Like there's crowns and jewelry made out of human hair, shoes that people wore, hats, guns, swords. There's a grandfather clock, and we kind of got this eerie feeling. So we took a seat in this area because, yeah, we were getting kind of a weird vibe, and we were actually able to catch some EVP in this area. I'm telling you, this museum was just fascinating. And if you get to Ottawa, you definitely need to stop and check this place out. I do believe some of the stories that have been told, and I believe it's haunted. So we very much enjoyed the hospitality of our trip to Ontario, and there was some fabulous restaurants we visited, a local pub. The people were so friendly. We had dinner at this Courtyard restaurant, which is also a haunted place. French cuisine, it was fabulous. Although we weren't able to actually investigate there, but it was a fantastic restaurant. So if you get a chance to go to Ottawa, Ontario, pack your bags and head on out. So that's basically the trip. Oh, we did get stopped by customs on the way back. After they found out we were a paranormal group and we'd been to that jail and spent the night, they didn't even rifle through our stuff and let us go. So, that was pretty awesome too. Now let's talk about some places abroad. I really, really enjoy different cultures in different countries, some of their folklore, the architecture. I can't even tell you about the buildings I find fascinating. And it's always neat to visit hauntings in other countries due to the different cultures. I've got a bucket list a mile long, and hopefully I make it to some of these places. But first, we're going to go to Spain. I know a lot of people don't talk too much about Spain, but they got some pretty famous haunted places there. There's this in Spain. There's this place called Palace of Linares, and it's in Madrid. It was built between 1872 and 1890 for the Marquis of Linares, Jose de Murgra. And I'll tell you what, I apologize if my pronunciation is off. I do my best. Now, in local legend, Linares Palace is haunted by the ghost of the first Marquis de Linares and his daughter. According to the story, Jose confessed to his father, the rich merchant Mateo, right, that he had fallen in love with this poor girl, and her name was Raymunda. Now, she was the daughter of a cigarette seller, and the father was horrified after learning the name of the girl. Mateo sent his son to London in order to try to make him forget about her, right? The son resolved not to marry Raymunda until his father had died. And so, here's what happened with that. When Mateo died, which was the father, the young couple was finally married. Jose is supposed to have found a letter from his father in which it explained the reasons for his opposition to the relationship. According to his father, he had an affair with a woman, which was Raymunda's mother, and they had a love child, And the love child was Raymunda making her Jose's half-sister. Jose and Raymunda, aware of the sin of incest they had unknowingly committed, petitioned the Pope to grant a special decree that would allow them to live together, but in chastity, right? However, okay, their love made them overlook their vow, and they had a daughter. And her name was Raymondita. And I will tell you what happened with this fascinating story after this short break. You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM-DB.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming. To the skeptic, there will never be enough. Hello everyone. Join Kevin and Jennifer Malik, the host of Paraversal Universe, every Friday here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET FM and The Rift. Log on or tune in as they check out the mysteries found within the 8 categories of the unknown and unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, cryptids and monsters, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, metaphysics, and forbidden archaeology. Listen as Kevin and Jennifer interview the top minds in their respective fields as they share theories and information regarding these unsolved mysteries. For future show and archive information, one can find Paraversal Universe on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe under various Paraversal Universe headings. So, for excellent talk radio about the unknown and unexplained, check out Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, Ltd., and produced by WBHM-DB.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelly Robertson. Before the break, I was talking about this fantastic palace in Spain, right? But I just want to remind you, if you missed the first part of the show, you can catch the archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and there's several others. So anywhere you are, I bet you we're there. Go ahead, come to our chat room, WBHM-DB.com, where you can tell any stories of your own or ask any questions you might have. Okay, so about this, continuing with this palace in Spain, right? The story went, the son ends up marrying the half-sister, right? They find this out after his father died. And they decided to overlook the chastity vow, and they ended up getting pregnant, having a daughter, and her name was Raymondita, and she was, the baby was either drowned or it was sealed up within the walls of the palace itself, right? And according to the legend today, her spirit paces the great halls of the old palace, singing children's songs and calling out to her parents. People are still reporting this. So that is kind of a shocking story, right? This next place we're going to go to is in South Korea, and it's the Gojam Psychiatric Hospital, and it's been called one of the most haunted places in South Korea. Legends of mysterious deaths, mad doctors that were as crazy as the patients in the asylum, and other folklore has added to the hype and the creepy factor of the place, right? This hospital was closed in the 1990s, and it was abandoned for much more other legitimate reasons other than hauntings. It was forced to close mainly due to economic downturns, unsanitary conditions, and problem with the sewage disposal system, okay? It's famous for its very dark past among many ghost hunters in Seoul. It's in Seoul, Korea. The abandoned hospital is claimed to be the most haunted place, right? The one psychiatric. Let me get my thoughts straight. It's home to many rumors of ghosts that roam around the empty corridors, and a movie has even been made about this place. And you could probably search it up. It's The Haunting of Ganjam Psychiatric Hospital. And I haven't seen the movie, but I want to see it. I have a bucket list, like, that's a mile long of hauntings of movies. I catch them every once in a while, late night. So this is definitely one I want to watch. Now we're going to go on to Singapore. Now, there is this place. It's called East Coast Park. It's a park, right? One night, a couple was strolling around in the area, and it was at this tower there where a group of thugs attacked them, okay? Knocking the boyfriend unconscious and killing the girlfriend after violating her, right? So, after this particular incident, there's been lots and lots of people claiming to have seen a female figure near the tower, while there's been other alleged claims of people hearing screams of help resonating within that area there. So that's kind of interesting since there's still so many people claiming this. Okay, here's an interesting place. This next place we're going to go to is in Russia, and it's at the Moscow Kremlin, or simply the Kremlin. And gosh, that's probably the most well-known place in Russia, right? It's a fortified complex in the center of Moscow. It is the best known of the Kremlins, which is the Russian citadels, and it includes 5 palaces, 4 cathedrals, and the enclosing Kremlin wall with the Kremlin towers, okay? In addition, within this complex is the Grand Kremlin Palace that was formerly the Tsar's Moscow residence. Now, the complex now serves as the official residence of the President of the Russian Federation, and it's also a museum when it gets over 2 million visitors a year, okay? This place is said to be haunted, get this, folks, by the Soviet leaders, Lenin and Stalin, along with other historical figures. There have been reports of their apparitions showing up in various locations throughout the entire complex. So I don't know if that's really, I'm just wondering if I would want to visit it for the awe of the place. Because if you look it up, the photos is astounding. But I don't know if I want to run into some ghostly Russian czars. I'm not sure about that. This next place we're going to head to is in Portugal, and it's the Beau Séjour Palace in Lisbon. Now, this palace, it's said to be haunted by the Baron of Gloria, who lived in the palace during the 19th century. Employees working at the palace report moving and disappearing objects, windows opening and closing abruptly, and visitors to the gardens also report hearing the ringing of non-existent bells, and that's still going on today. Next up, we are going to go to Pakistan. And you never hear about anything from Pakistan, right? But let me tell you, there are quite a few haunted places there. The Mohata Palace in Karachi, okay? This is where it's at. It was a home that was built in the 1920s, and now it's a museum that is said to be haunted by ghosts of the British Raj era. Museum guides have reported seeing various objects which have moved from their original place or shifted about, and there are several guards that have claimed to have felt the presence of certain spirits during the night. So it's kind of like maybe ghostly wise, A Night at the Museum, the movie, where stuff moves around at night. This next place, oh my gosh, let me tell you, the Netherlands is just so jam-packed full of haunted places. I did pick out a couple from there to talk about tonight because there's so many fascinating spots. One famous place that y'all will probably know about is the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam. And of course, you all know it's the former home of Anne Frank, who was the Dutch Jewish girl who wrote the world famous The Diary of a Young Girl in the Second World War. I even had to read that book for one of my English classes in school when I was coming up. Now, the diary is of the young girl during the Second World War, and in this war, Anne and her family had to hide from the Germans, and they did that in the now called Anne Frank house, which back in World War II was her father's office, okay? Anne and her sister and her mother later died in a concentration camp. People nowadays say that they feel cold spots in the house, they have a feeling of being watched, and the staff sometimes hear sounds coming from the secret annex, right? They say that if you stand outside of the house at midnight, you can see a little girl hanging out of the window, and many claim it to be Anne. Very interesting, huh? Next, we're going to go to, and this is in the Netherlands too, the Hoensbroek Castle, okay? It's one of the largest castles in the Netherlands. It's situated in Hoenbroek, a town in the province of Limburg, okay? This imposing water castle is known as the most lordly stronghold between the Rhine and Meuse River, and it's the oldest part of the castle, which is the tall round tower on this castle. It dates back around the 1360s when that was built. And of course, the castle was an ancestral home of knights, an imperial baron, the imperial counts and viscounts, of course, to the Hohenbroek family name. And that went on for, nearly 6 centuries. The family left the castle at the end of the 18th century, after which the castle entered a period of decay. Count Franz Lothar sold the castle in 1927 to the present-day owners, which is the foundation, this certain foundation over there, and it was thoroughly restored between 1930 and 1940. Now, shortly after the Second World War, the castle and accompanying buildings were used for diverse things, just all kinds of different things, okay? In 1945, the castle was used for war orphans, okay? And that was ran under the Carmelite sisters. From 1951 to 1973, the writer-poet Burtis lived in part of the castle, and in the period between 1986 and 86 and 89 it was, another restoration took place, and since that, it's formed a popular and educative museum destination, and it's funded by the municipality. The castle there is said to be haunted by a ghost called the Blue Lady. Her official name was Anna Katharina, and she died on November 5th, I believe it was, in 1760. People say what they think she's roaming around for is that she's looking for her two children who died at an early age, and the children were supposedly buried within the castle walls, and while she was not informed of this. So she's there still searching for her children. This next place we're going to go to is in Malaysia, and it's a mansion. It's called the Kinnarat Mansion, and this place was a former German manor house in the Greco-Roman style. That's how it was built, right? The local population living near the area of the mansion ruins claim that the place is haunted with ghosts. But get this, folks, the type of ghost is in the form of a tall tree that's usually disguised as a normal tree seen in the forest area. That's kind of bizarre, right? It's a ghostly tree. Other people have claimed to have seen a fast-moving apparition. They hear eerie voices of a female ghost at night, which the media also blows that up and talks about that. A lot of people who visit the area say they feel something was following while they were walking through. So, supposedly very haunted by a tree. Interesting. I haven't come across any haunted vegetation yet. This next place. Oh, this is a fascinating place, and it's in Italy. The Colosseum, which is also known as the Flavian Amphitheater. It's an oval amphitheater in the center of the city of Rome, Italy, okay? It was built out of limestone and volcano rock, along with brick-faced concrete, all right? It was the largest amphitheater ever built at that time, and it held over 50,000 spectators. Although it was actually ruined because of earthquakes, thieves, and stone robbers, the Colosseum is still an iconic symbol of Imperial Rome, and it's listed as one of the new 7 wonders of the world, actually. It was reported to be haunted, according to some witnesses, and even researcher testimonies. Visitors have described observing ghostly figures wandering the staircases. There have been reports of hearing the cheers and screams from a crowd while there was no sign of people in the area, right? The vaults were reportedly active by the spirits of gladiators waiting to fight, actors waiting to perform, and prisoners becoming prepared for execution. Several reports of accounts of being touched or pushed have been felt by both tourists and employees. Sounds of animals have also been heard within the vaults at the Colosseum. Very interesting, huh? Can you imagine all of the stuff that went on there? I can just imagine some of the EVP you might get from that area. The next place we're going to go to is Ireland. Oh, and there's lots of places there. Castles, which I'd love to go visit one day. There's this place. It's called the Malahide Castle. Okay. Parts of this castle date back to being built in the 12th century, right? And it lies on 260 acres of remaining estate parkland, okay? Excuse me. It's close to the village of Malahide, and that's 9 miles north of central Dublin in Ireland. Okay, this castle is said to be haunted by Lord Galtrim, Sir Walter Hussey. All right, that's a long name. And he was the son of the Baron of Galtrim. He was killed in battle on his wedding day during the 15th century. His apparition roams the castle at night, groaning in pain, while pointing at the spear wound in his side. Excuse me. Very, very interesting, right? Now, there is also a lady, and her name is Matilda, or, they nickname her Maud Plunkett. Her spirit appears to workers and guests as she did on the day of her marriage to the Lord Chief Justice. Maud would chase his spirit through the corridors. The third spirit is a jester who fell in love with Gerald Fitzgerald's daughter, Lady Eleanor, who was detained at the castle by Henry VIII for inciting rebellions, right? It was on this snowy night in December that this woman was found stabbed through the heart, still wearing his suit and cap. Before his death, he swore that he would haunt here until a master with a bride from the people ruled the castle. However, he promised not to harm any male Talbot who slept there. Numerous visitors have reported seeing the jester's face on some photos taken there when they snap photos, to take home. The White Lady is the fourth apparition here. Of course, you can't have a place without the Lady in White. And she is also in a painting, and this painting hangs on the castle's Great Wall. It is said that she would leave her painting at times and wander through the grounds at night. The fifth and final spirit is Miles Cobart. He was given the castle and the surrounding property by Oliver Cromwell. During the Restoration, Miles was made to pay for his crimes, and he was hanged. It was reported that his apparition appears as a whole soldier in armor, which suddenly falls to pieces right before your eyes. So, a lot of fascinating things going on in that castle in Ireland. And with that, we'll be back after this short break. You're listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Alabama.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelly Robertson. If you just tuned in, folks, don't worry. You can catch the full show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and several others. So whatever you're a member of, I'm sure we're more than likely there. Before the break, I'm talking about these haunted places from around the world, and I spoke a little bit about our trip last weekend to Canada, and now we are going to continue on with these haunted places, and we're going to go to Australia. Now, you can imagine there's lots and lots of haunted places in Australia, okay? The first place we're going to go to is Brisbane City Hall, of course, in Brisbane, Australia. It has several stories of death spanning the eras before and after its construction. During construction, workmen were said to have died while laying the foundations, which were on top of a former swamp. It's also said that there's an area that was once a significant Aboriginal site, either a meeting place or a campground. Other stories relate to the death of a maintenance man or lift attendant, if you might want to say, who either fell to his death down on the lift wall or he was crushed by the lift itself. This story goes one of two ways. Now, this story likely results from a suicide from the clock tower that occurred in 1935. Another story claims that an American soldier was stabbed to death during World War II during a fight. Staff have reported the sounds of an argument from the Red Cross tea room in the area, and there are many reports of sounds and unusual activities in the areas surrounding these deaths where they happened, right? This third story, it claims there's an apparition of a woman who is regularly seen traveling the main stairs in the lobby, and she looks out over the foyer. A story which, likely results from another suicide from the City Hall's clock tower in 1937. There have also been some recent photos of the stairwell apparition as well. So there's photographs of this haunting, right? There is this other place that, and we're still in Australia, this other place that's called the Ararat Lunatic Asylum, and it is the largest abandoned lunatic asylum in Australia. It opened in 1867, and the Airedale was reserved for many of the incurable mental patients in Victoria during the 1800s. An estimated 13,000 folks, wrap your mind around that. 13,000 people died here during 140 years of operation, right? It is said to be so haunted. People here report hearing screams and see apparitions and shadow ghosts. You name it, it goes on. Then we've got this next place. And we're going to stay in Australia for the moment. This next place is called North Head Quarantine Station in Manly, New South Wales. It housed victims of a number of diseases, including smallpox, right? Excuse me. People had smallpox, the Spanish flu, and this was between the years of 1833 and 1984. It was the site of over 500 deaths. A number of ghost tours are run on the grounds, which includes also a large cemetery, and reports of seeing apparitions and being touched, and they are just endless from this place, right? Now, this next place we're going to go to is in Bangladesh. And there's this farmhouse in Camilla, and it's a huge farmhouse. And it is reported to be haunted by black shadows that assault people at night. Malevolent black shadows. The city, Camilla, in Bangladesh, is located along a highway, and it's the second largest city of eastern Bangladesh. And there is a lot of haunted places there too. If we go on to Barbados, there's this place called Chase Vault, and it's a burial vault in the cemetery of the Christchurch Parish in Ostens, Barbados. And it's best known for a widespread of unverified legends of the mysterious moving coffins, right? Moving coffins. According to the story, each time, a heavily sealed vault was opened during the early 19th century for a burial of a family member, all of the coffins changed position. The facts of the story actually, right now, to this day, are unverified, but the tales, appear to originated from, a story told by Thomas Orderson, the rector of Christ Church during the 1800s. So, whether that story is true or not, we don't know. Now, this next place is in Denmark, and it's the Dragsholm Castle in Zealand. It is said to be haunted by the ghost of James Hepburn, and he was the 4th Earl of Bothwell, imprisoned there for about 5 years until his death during the year of 1578, right? And this castle still stands today, and it is a historical building in Denmark. And now, folks, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here at the old Paulding County Jail in Paulding, Ohio. Of course, we do have the escape games running, And coming up in September here, we have 187 construction theme running. For more information on our escape games, go to jailbreakcode9.com, and that's the number 9. We also have a full schedule of events for the rest of the summer and fall that are happening here at the Old Paulding County Jail. You can go to our website if you want more information at 187pi.com. We still have some dates for private paranormal investigations available, as well as all the information you will need to schedule a private investigation for you and your paranormal team. I will also mention that all the available dates for 2019 are posted for private investigations. No other dates will be added for this year. So if you want to experience some of the, activity that we experience on a daily basis, go to 187pi.com and book your private session. August 31st, which is this Saturday, we have Ghost Hunt Weekends in the house here at the jail, heading up an exciting night of ghost hunting. So if you would like to experience the activity that happens here at the jail, go to ghosthuntweekends.com to reserve your spot. Tickets are limited to a small amount, so get your tickets now while there's still a couple left. September 7th, we, 187PI, we are hosting a public ghost hunt here at the Old Paulding Jail. You can find more info about this and reserve your spot on Facebook or on our website, 187pi.com. Tickets are very limited for this. We are only offering 20 tickets, so get yours while we still have a couple left. And we will be going to the Scarefest Convention in Lexington, Kentucky, the 12th and 13th of December. So if you're going to the Scarefest, which is the largest paranormal and horror convention in the United States, watch for us. Come talk to us in person. Here is what we have coming up on our wonderful network, WBHM-DB.com. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, we have Fate Magazine Radio with host Kat Hobson. Monday nights at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, we have the Paranormal Pride Show with host Denise Pride Moore. Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, we have Paranormal Experienced with host Kat Hobson. These are fantastic shows with great information and amazing guests. You will be sure you'll want to tune in to listen to them. Just make, 8 o'clock evenings, WBHM-DB.com time, right? I also want to mention our normally scheduled show for September, which is the 13th of September. We will be at the convention in Kentucky, so we will not have a live broadcast. However, Kat Hobson will be hosting a special broadcast from, get this folks, I know you're going to want to tune in, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee. So you'll want to make sure you tune in and listen to that show. So, as we come to a close of our show, I want to thank all of you, our listening friends out there tonight, for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to my live broadcast. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great evening, a super duper holiday weekend, and, hope everybody's got Monday off. Good night, everyone.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.